Alright guys, we're going to do the one-arm dumbbell roll. Primary muscle groups worked is going to be your lats, the outside of your lats, and also going to be the back of your shoulders, your rear delts. So Dan, why don't you stand up with the set? And turn around, go ahead and stand up, and it's going to actually work on your back right here, the lats, and also the muscle right here, which is your rear delts, or basically your rear deltoids, back of your shoulders. So let's go ahead and get started. So what Dan's going to do is he's going to get into the starting position first, and you'll notice that the distance between his knees and his hand, you want to be at least about 1.5 to maybe even up to 2 feet, kind of depending on your body type. Your feet, you want to have it back a little bit. You don't want it too close, and you'll notice. Let's go ahead and put the dumbbell down, and right before we start, notice how he's getting a very good stretch. You want to make sure when you're on the bottom you get this really good stretch, and let's go ahead and do a couple reps. And when you come up, why don't you come up a little more, chest out. And what you want to do, let's try this, Dan. Let's go ahead and do the same thing but tuck in your elbows more. And this is actually there you go, a lot better. This is actually a common mistake that a lot of guys do, and it's not that it's bad, it's just that it doesn't fully work on your lats. So now what Dan is doing is he just changed his elbows to come a lot closer in. And you'll notice how he comes down, he gets a full stretch, and then he comes up. There you go, good. And constantly throughout this whole exercise, his back remains flat. You can actually have your back sit up just a bit if you like, but right here is also very good form. So the thing to watch out for, the first thing, is to make sure to keep your elbows tucked in. And it's very tricky though when you're not used to this exercise, because your natural instinct is to flare your elbows out. And what that works on is that actually concentrates more on your scapula and your rear delts, but it takes a lot of stress off your lats. So if you really want to get to your lats or your wings and get that good V shape, you definitely want to go ahead and make sure the elbow is tucked in all the way. Good. Okay, that's good, Dan. So some of the common mistakes, and the first one is when you're starting off on this exercise, a lot of people will start by rounding their back. If you'll notice throughout the other exercises that the perfect form is always with your chest out and either with your back straight or maybe a slight arch in your back. So you want to make sure you're not doing this. Notice how my back is rounded. And the reason why is because when your back is rounded, not only are you not working on the right muscle groups, but you're actually going to hurt your spine. And so keep your chest out, butt out, and keep your elbows tucked in, and go ahead and pull up. Some people actually call this move the lawnmower because you're actually, picture yourself grabbing a lawnmower, and when you're starting it up, when you pull it, you're not going to pull it just to here, you're actually going to pull it as far as you can to get that full range of motion. So this way you can work on more of your back. So another common mistake when somebody rounds their back is they don't actually work on their back anymore. And let me show you an example. Why don't we get a close view right here by my shoulders. So when I round my back, notice how I'm rolling up, but you don't see my back move a lot. You just see my arms, because what I'm doing, I'm actually just working on my arms. So I'm going to do this a little slower. This is the wrong form. This is the right form. Notice the difference. Your back is not contracting, okay? Just your arm is moving. In this form here, your whole back is contracting. Notice the range of motion. And you want to think of it as if somebody is you're actually trying to get your elbows back. So you're not really trying to get the weight back, you're just trying to get your elbows back. So this way you can actually use your back to do the exercises. A lot of people, when they work on back, they actually use too much of their biceps and not enough of their back. So those are some of the common mistakes. A modification of these exercises would be actually what Dan did in the beginning, which is when you do this exercise, you can purposely go ahead and flare your elbows out and do it like this. Now this is not the wrong form, this is just a modified way of doing it. And what that does is that stresses more of your rear delts right here and your scapula, which is right here, and doesn't work on your lats. So it doesn't give you that V shape, but it does give you good development in your upper back. Something else you can actually do is when you do the roll, instead of having the dumbbell face this way, you can actually turn it. So when you reach down like this, and as you go ahead and roll it up, you can actually do a turn. So what that does is that little turn is going to go ahead and work on your lats, and it gets a little lower down here. It's a very small difference, but it actually makes a pretty big one when you're trying to change it up. Okay, Dan, so is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, so one thing I was wondering about is how should guys place their hand and their knees on the bench? Is there like a correct distance for that?
That kind of depends on the height of somebody. There's not really a certain rule on how far your hands should be. If you're a little shorter, then you'll realize that your hands and your knees are going to be a little closer. But what you want to do, the main goal is you want your back to be about parallel to the ground, like this, or slightly up a little bit, like this. So the last thing you want to do is to get your knees and your hands too far away, like this, to where you notice that your back is almost slanting down, and it's a lot of stress on your wrists also. So make sure that it's just far enough so your back feels comfortable and also is parallel to the ground.
One other thing I was wondering about too, I've seen some guys in the gym where they'll do it and they'll actually be standing with both their feet on the ground like this.
Right.
Is that an acceptable way to do it, or would you not recommend that?
Actually, that's another modified way of how to do it. But the difference is you'll find that some guys will go ahead and either lean on a bench and they'll grab the dumbbell and they'll roll like this. And what that does is it lessens the point of contact, because when you're on a bench, you actually have 3 points of contact on the ground. Your hands, your knees here, and your other foot. So what that does is it takes less stress off your entire body and focuses on your back. If you do it like this, you'll notice you have only 1 point of contact on the bench instead of 2. And what that does is it's going to force you to use more of your lower back instead of focusing on the lats and focusing on the scapula area. Another way that you'll see guys sometimes do it is they'll go ahead and not use a bench at all, and they'll put their hands right here like this, and they'll put their feet back, and they'll just go like this. And this is okay to do, but this is going to work on the overall body, because you don't have the support at all, so you're going to end up using a lot of your legs, a lot of your core muscles to go ahead and support that movement, and it's going to take less stress off your back. So I'd recommend, if you really want to work on your back, just do it using a bench, so this way you can hit the areas you want to hit. And if you're looking for a total body workout, look through some of the other exercises like a deadlift or bent over roll, a squat and press, something like that, so you can get full benefits. Yeah.
One final question. I've seen some guys in the gym and they'll do this with like very heavy weight, and they'll do it like very like explosively, like all at once.
Right.
Would you recommend that, or would you recommend that guys stay slow?
With that, on explosive movements, that's not actually with wrong form, because you're talking about the guys that do it with right form.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, basically the way that works is if you have right form, you can actually do it a little faster, but you'll see that when you do it slower, it takes other muscle fibers. You have muscle fibers that has to control it all the way up and all the way down. If you go a little faster, it's okay, just as long as your form is good.
Yeah.
You'll notice that it's actually a little easier sometimes to go faster, but you're not using your muscles as much because you're using momentum.
Yeah.
So when it comes to muscle building, the best way to do it is to kind of go with a moderate speed. In a moderate speed, an example would be if I was going to go ahead and do a few reps, you want to go ahead and come up and down, up and down. And this is a moderate speed. Okay. Now, if you want to really do it slow, you're going to go like this. Okay, so this is about slow. And I think what you're talking about, Dan, is when you see guys grab a really heavy one and they just fling it up like this. And even though you're doing the right form, you're really taking a lot of out of the exercise because you're not allowing your muscles to fully contract. You're just kind of swinging it up and then just kind of dropping it down. So remember when we talked about positive and negatives, you're not really working on that negative part of the exercise. So it takes less effect out of the exercise.
Yeah. So in other words, don't use momentum, just, use the force.
Yeah, because you're not going to build as much muscle if you use a lot of momentum. You're just going to be pretty much moving weight around.
Great.
Okay, that's it for the one arm